Hey everybody, welcome to the Leader Lab. This is Leadership Shorts, quick thoughts to help you level up your leadership. My name is Chad Wright. I'm the founder of Forward Partners, and I'm joined as always by my partner in podcasting, Emily Grace Deal. EGD, what are we talking about today?
Well, today we have a question. Our business makes changes very rapidly, and a lot of those changes create chaos. Then we have to make even more changes to clean it up. How can we learn a way to approach problems other than just rapid change?
This is, again, very common. And I think we need to understand why we are driven to make rapid changes, because this is so common. There's got to be a reason for it.
Right.
And I think part of it is understanding that like our brain is designed to give us a hit of dopamine when we find a solution, which means it's designed to give us that hit if we can find the solution fast. Because the sooner we find it, the sooner we get the hit. The sooner we feel good about ourselves, the sooner the stress of the situation is gone. And so knowing that and knowing that we have that wiring, we also run into times when we genuinely do need to go fast. There's times when speed is required. Usually it's in emergency situations. And because our brain wants us to always go fast, so we get the reward faster, it always says, this is an emergency, emergency. It's always flashing red alert at us, right?
Yes.
You've got to get this done. If you don't get this done, people are going to be mad and people are going to die and we got to get this through, you know. It gets in that mode, and ultimately, it's a good emergency voice, isn't it?
I like that.
It gets in that mode, and ultimately that makes us move way, way too fast. And the problem is, in most cases, if it's not an emergency situation, we need to slow down. And what we really need is more curiosity. We need the ability to just ask more questions.
Yeah.
To dig a little deeper and to really find out, are we actually doing the right thing?
Right.
And in doing that, in creating space for curiosity, what we find is the more curiosity you have, the better future you create. Because ultimately, curiosity, if we want to create a better future, it really is about being curious, right?
Well, and it helps, like, if you can stop and have that moment of curiosity, you can find more creative solutions to things that work better for the long run.
Absolutely. Curiosity leads to better solutions, more creativity, things we never even thought of. It leads to better communication. It leads to all these different things.
Well, and kind of like leaving that door open for like better solutions instead of just going exactly what you have. Like you might not have all the resources you need yet.
Yeah.
Like you can always look outside the box for that.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that we procrastinate necessarily. This is not a move of how do we just not get things done.
Right.
It is how do we make change? How do we find solutions in a steady way? Can we do that in a way that we're not causing chaos? Because ultimately change, if it's not managed well and not rolled out and communicated well, that's all it creates is chaos. While the little change might have been good, the chaos that radiates out from that is actually doing damage.
Right. Taking that pause. Well, and I'm not great at taking the pause always, but I really do think this piece of curiosity is so much more beneficial.
Yeah.
And like learning the pause to have that is the hard part, but like it's also what's so beneficial. Is having that pause, the moment of like, okay, like once we have paused, we can take a deep breath. We can see that there's other solutions out there and not just go. Also, this like gives that moment for other people's input. Yeah. Because we don't all think the same. And
exactly. We don't. And that kind of leads to how do we use a pause well? And I think using it well, there's a couple of questions that are kind of available to us. One big question to ask, this is one that gets skipped over all the time, is who will this change or solution affect? We often come up with an idea and we don't stop and think, well, what if we totally rethought how Carl does things, and by doing that, it's going to create all these efficiencies over here? Well, nobody goes and talks to Carl and says, hey, Carl, how would this change affect you? What are your thoughts? How can we make this better? Help us, punch on the idea a little bit, see if it holds up.
Right.
Nobody does that. They just come to Carl and say, hey, we've decided you're changing. And that feels terrible for Carl. That is not a good experience for him.
Right.
So we skip that question because we move fast. Who will this change or solution affect? The second one that I love is, how are we going to effectively communicate this change or solution? Because often we rush headlong to the solution or to the change, to the choice. We rarely stop and ask, hey, how are we going to effectively communicate this? which is funny because you go into almost any organization in the world and say, what's our number one problem? They're going to say communication.
Yeah.
Nobody ever tells us why they're doing things. Nobody ever tells us anything. We just see the change and now we know it's a thing, but nobody told us ahead of time to be ready for it.
Right.
And so we really have to ask that question, how are we going to effectively communicate this?
Right. I think that's also that trap of like, send the email, we're good to go. Like
Yes. Yeah, we sent the email, we're done, we've communicated it. And so it's a process. And if we ask the question, we can effectively develop that process.
Right.
And so if we're moving so fast, I really think this got me thinking about this idea that if curiosity is how we build a better future, and speed kills curiosity, speed is actually an enemy of the future. It is actually hurting us as far as what we're creating in the future.
Yeah, that makes
and
sense.
we don't think about it when we're running fast. We think we're doing something good because our brain's going, "You're doing great. You can do it." Like it's lying to us this whole time.
Right.
And meanwhile, there's chaos just rippling out all over the place.
Well, yeah, if you're running fast enough, then you're just afraid you're going to trip. Like you're just trying to avoid not like.
Yes. And the reality is, the bigger the organization is, too, the further those ripples go out, the more people they affect. And they're not even contained to the organization. If I'm Carl, do you think I'm going home and having a great night with my wife and kids? No. I'm going home and going, can you believe this place? They completely changed my job, did not say a word to me, didn't ask how I felt. They just did it. Carl's not having a great night.
Right.
Carl's probably not having a great week or month or maybe even year. That's how these things can kind of start to wreck people. And so I think there's something to being cognizant of. Are we moving too fast? Are we treating non-emergencies like emergencies? And if we are, we got to slow down. We got to be curious. Leaders, let's talk next steps. You have been a part of these organizations. You may be a part of one right now. You may be leading this organization.
You may be Carl.
Right now. You may be making Carl's day really tough, to be honest with you. Stop and really examine how y'all make choices. How do you find solutions? How do you choose to make changes? If it's an emergency situation, okay, if you need to move fast, totally understand. If it's not an emergency, and let's be honest, for most of us, most things are not emergencies, no matter what our brain says. Slow down. Take time to be curious. Ask some of these questions. How will this change affect, or I'm sorry, who will this change or solution affect? Go talk to them. If your idea is so amazing, it's going to stand up to their scrutiny. It's going to stand up to the holes they try to punch in it. And by the way, it may make the idea even better. And then ask the other question, how are we going to effectively communicate this change or solution? That's going to help you slow down and realize you really do need a plan. It is not just sending an email. It is not just putting a poster on the wall. We need to effectively communicate this. And if we can slow down, remain curious, we can ask the right questions, we can build a better future. All right, Emily, if people want to send us questions or scenarios or things to work through just like this, where do they send that?
lab@forwardpartners.net.
lab@forwardpartners.net. If they want to find us online, we're putting out leadership content all over the place. Where do they find that?
@forwardpartner.
@forwardpartner. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Thank you for co-hosting.
Thank you.
John, Porchlight Productions Vineyard, thank you for porch lighting. Emily, thank you for bringing the vibes. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for listening. Share this with fellow leaders. If you've got a fellow leader you know that runs way too fast, makes changes too quickly, this is a good thing to share with them. I promise. Have that conversation with them. Point them our direction. We'll have the conversation with them. We'll see you next time right here in the Leader Lab for Leadership Shorts.